Welcome back to another episode of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm your host, Susie Selleck, and today we are in Connersville, Indiana, at the First United Methodist Church, and I'm joined by Carolyn Bunzendahl. Carolyn, thank you so much for having us here.
Well, thank you for coming.
This is an absolutely beautiful church. I cannot wait to get to the stained glass windows, but before we get to the stained glass windows, I would love for you to tell us how the First United Methodist Church got started.
Well, Methodism came into our county really before 1819 when Fayette County was designated as a county. But we have records back then that there was a Thomas Silvey who was the minister at that point in time, and he was doing marriages, so that's where our records begin. But then this church itself was not built until 1889. There was an earlier church that was built on 4th Street, and it's still standing today.
Is it?
And we've got a picture so that you can take a shot of that.
Great.
It's still standing. It's not occupied, but that was one of the very first churches that the Methodists actually built. And then we moved several different places.
Okay.
And then finally came to this particular spot at 7th and Central.
Okay, so the location that we're sitting in, 7th and Central. How much did this building cost?
That actually was $35,500. There were records that said $40,000, but somebody delved into it and said, no, that's wrong. It was $35,500.
That was really exact.
And that was 130 years ago. We just celebrated our 130th anniversary.
Congratulations.
And we celebrated that with having a circuit rider come, because that's what happened before we actually had buildings for Methodist ministers to preach in. Circuit riders came and preached the word and brought the word of the gospel to people in Connersville.
So I've heard the story that there were some sisters who have generously contributed to some of the remodeling that's been happening here in recent. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes.
Who they are, what that was?
It's a great story. It's an absolute great story, and we have a plaque on the wall to honor them. These were two spinsters who
I love it.
who recently, well, not real recently, passed away, but one had passed away, and very soon after that the other did too. And they lived very frugally. They were longtime members of this church, as well as their family before that. And one of them had worked at our local factory, American Kitchens, which was really booming during the war, doing war for the war effort.
Yeah.
And she had worked there quite a long time. The other was a teacher who had taught for many, many years. And like I said, they lived very frugally. People had no idea they had any money whatsoever. And when they passed away, they bequeathed quite a large sum to the Methodist Church, as well as a couple of other organizations in town. And it was just amazing. And the things that we've been able to do with their bequest have been wonderful.
Carolyn, what were their names?
Okay, this was Hilda and Marie Sefton.
Okay.
Lived in, like I said, lived frugally and lived in a nice little house up on Grand Avenue. And we're, like I said, we're long-term members of the church.
I think clearly we've seen some remodels and additions within the structure. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Since the building was built in 1889, about 20 years after that, they decided they needed more room already, so they built a partial basement. And then again in 1920, they built a full basement. And then even later in 1940, they added on and did some remodeling. The main addition, though, that came was about 1956.
Okay.
There was a whole new education building that is on the back here, which you haven't seen yet.
Nope, but excited to.
12 classrooms, office space, a chapel. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And coincidentally, my husband's father was the contractor for that position, so it's been fun going back in all this history.
You don't say.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk any more about the remodels or any additions?
Well, the recent remodel that we've done, we completely redid the sanctuary and redid the pipe organ, which we'll talk a little bit more about later.
Yeah.
Because we'd had an accident with the organ and it was rendered unusable, and so it took quite a lot of money to fix that. So that was part of the Sefton sisters' bequest too, that helped fix the organ. We also did some exterior work and did the new sidewalks. So those are all things another, it wasn't necessarily a remodel, but it was an addition. In 1972, there were, used to be houses here on the south end of the building. And so those houses were purchased and torn down and then made our nice parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. We parked there.
Yes.
Now, to get to the stained glass windows, are you ready to talk about those? Because this church is known for their stained glass windows.
It is known for those, yes. They are gorgeous. They bring a lot of people in. The one to the north, all of the stained glass windows were made possible through bequests from families of members.
Would that explain why there's names on some of them?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Cool.
And although we don't know a whole lot about some of the donors, the one to the north side, Charles Rell, was one of the first superintendents of the school system in Connersville, and he was able to hand out the diplomas to the first graduating high school class.
Very cool.
I think that was pretty cool.
Good story.
Yeah. And then to the south, it's James McIntosh, and some of the research that we've done said that he actually died before the church was built. So it was his family who donated all the money for that particular window and honored him with that. He died of typhoid fever, so that was way in the early days.
Right.
Yeah. There are medallions on a lot of the windows, and they all have a particular meaning. We have a book that was written by a former pastor that talks about all those medallions and the icons in there and the meaning and how that relates to the Bible. So that's a pretty cool book to have.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like unlocking codes. Like, oh, what does this one mean? Very, very cool.
Yes.
So in the where I guess you guys you call this a worship room?
Yes. This is our sanctuary.
Okay. So in the sanctuary, you've got these beautiful stained glass windows to the north, to the south. In the back, where you've got these squared off stained glass windows. Yes. Were those added in right around the same time, or did those come with the remodel?
No, those were all added at the same time. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure. And there were a couple then that at one point in time were blocked off, and then we reopened up a room.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Carolyn, can you talk to us a little bit more about the organ? We started talking about it earlier. I would love to know a little bit more. It sounds like a good story.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, that was purchased in 1940, and it was one of the better organs at that point in time and served us well. There was kind of an accident in 2013 or 15, I'm not sure which, but our boiler in the basement had kind of sprung a leak and had steam coming up into the pipe organs and really messed things up a lot. Oh. Yeah, so we were devastated, and fortunately, God works in mysterious ways. That's when we had gotten the bequest and we were able to get it all fixed and put back together. And it's just a perfect organ.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. So, you know, obviously music is a big part. I mean, to be a church and to have an organ in 2019, you clearly have a respect and love for music. Yes. What else do you have here? Choir, bell choir, that kind of stuff that you can talk about?
We sure do. Music is one of our main ministries, really. Yeah. And we have a fantastic choir director who is just so energetic and peppy and gets everybody going and clapping. And we have great music. And we also have a wonderful organist who is also the bell choir director. So they work together very well. All the music that they choose, they do so with the prime reason of bringing people closer to God.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet, and with the acoustics in here, I bet on a Sunday morning this place is rocking.
It is fantastic. It's fantastic.
I noticed up in the loft near the back of the sanctuary, there's a whole bunch of, I mean, it kind of looks like a little TV studio up there. What's happening with that?
Yes, we do have a TV studio.
In the church?
In the church. Okay. We have the most wonderful videographer. He and his father do this every Sunday out of the kindness of their hearts. They are wonderful recorders. Anyway, we broadcast live on Comcast Channel 90 every Sunday. We also then have it on YouTube live.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So people who can't physically make it here.
Exactly.
They can roll with you wherever they are.
Yes.
That's great.
And this ties into the wonderful music we have. People can hear that.
Well, it wouldn't be history in your own backyard if we didn't get to talk about the wall of history. And I understand that you keep the wall of history on your past ministers. Can you talk about that?
We do. We continue to honor those who have served and have led us and leading us closer to God. So we have all the walls of the pictures. Not sure how far back they go. Not as far as the church itself, but quite a few. We don't have our current minister on there. I'm not sure why he doesn't have his picture on there yet, but
you'll get there.
But he'll get there.
It's not history yet if it's
that's
present.
Exactly right.
There you go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and then at the same place on the wall of history, we have this wonderful quilt that was made years and years and years ago by women of the United Methodist Church. So we keep a plaque about that, and the United Methodist women have just been so helpful and super involved and have done so much for this church that without them we wouldn't be any place.
That's great. That's great that you can pay tribute to that for the people that have been part of it to make it up now.
Yes.
That's the history.
Yes.
Where is the future of the First United Methodist Church right here in Connersville? Where is the future? I mean, it looks very bright. No pun intended. Totally pun intended.
Don't even have to have sunglasses. Yeah.
So yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, I think our future is bright. We're going to continue to grow. Mm-hmm. We're going to continue to be more out there and more part of the community, and just do more outreach for different people. We also have an empty lot that's part of our property.
Yeah.
That we want to develop into something for the community.
Is this a mystery, or do you have an idea?
Well, we have some ideas,
okay.
But it's
just not ready to be cracked
yet.
It's
just, it's still a dream. It's not a plan.
Okay.
It will turn into a plan at some point in time, but we're doing a lot of investigation to make sure that we're doing the right thing. We're waiting for God to tell us exactly when to get started. And we're starting right now, but we don't have an actual plan together, but there will be something very wonderful that's going to be of a service to the community on that lot.
Well, if history shows anything, it is that you guys clearly wait on God to move you in a direction, and you meet him halfway with your work and your service to the community. And those are some of my favorite stories in the world, so yes. Couldn't love that more. And Carolyn, thank you for your time today, being able to share the beautiful history of your church, of the things that you guys do here, and how active people have been, and for letting me get to sit in this beautiful sanctuary as well.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention we have a wonderful church historian, Jim Wicker, who was not able to come today, but he's helped put together all the history. He keeps all the history books. He's keeping all the pictures. So that's why we're able to tell these stories.
That's wonderful. And it's great that you paid tribute to him. So, Carolyn, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for watching another episode of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm your host, Susie Selleck, today in Connersville, Indiana, here at the First United Methodist Church with Carolyn Bunzendahl. Carolyn, thank you so much. Your interview was fantastic.
Well, thank you. It's just a pleasure to have you do this for us.
Well, remember, travel slowly and stop often. Bye for now.